The next presentation is in charge of myself, Emiliano Gallaga from Unicach here in Chiapas, Mexico. And I will talk from the mirrors from the British Museum in England. So let me share screen. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, go ahead. Okay. Okay, well, the talk is about the mirrors from the British Museum that I have the opportunity to visit this summer. Before I talk about the mirrors we found in the storage room, I would like to give a context of the British Museum. The British Museum was founded in some way by this personage who was Sir Hans Sloane, the first Baroness, in England, and he was an Anglo-Irish physician, naturalist, and avid collector. By the time of his old age, his collections was around 71,000 objects, and he was worried that if he started selling it, the collection would dismantle or go away in different ways. And so he managed, because he was part of the Royal Society of Researchers in England at the time, and he managed to sell his collections to King George II by the amount of 20,000 English pounds by the time, so it was a very good sum. So with this, the king decided to open the British Museum, and they started construction in 1753, and they opened to the public in 1759. So the people could enjoy the collection. Mostly, the British Museum start with this collection from this Irish physician collector, but they start acquiring several collections from antiquarians, from archaeologists, etc. In these things, and I think it's important to mention that by the time when the British Museum started, in this period, archaeology was conducted differently than it is today. So the archaeologists at the time were more than antiquarians, looking for the nice piece for collections, etc. So we see all these aristocrats, all these sirs from the English Empire, going to different parts of the English realm and collect items in archaeological perform or as collectors. And at some point, they start selling it to the British museums, or the British Museum start sponsor those particular projects around the world. It is important to mention that even today, we think that the British Museum has a lot of pieces they need to return to the former owners. We need to mention too that if it not wasn't from the British acquisition of these pieces, some of these material would be disappeared by now that we see that happen in the Middle East with the IRS. So we need to, by prior today, in the British Museum has material from all over the place, Greek, Egyptian, Mesopotamia, Turkey, India, Africa, and of course from Mesoamerica and Mexico. British Museum is the largest museums of today with its collections is a little more than 8 million pieces. So making the largest museum. So it is very interesting to see all the material they have there. And like I always saw in in another talk, there is a lot of research that we could be done without going to the field, just going to the storage collection and see what are the materials there. The previous talk by Emiliano and colleagues, they just show us that they go to a museum that they have pieces and they have a lot of information yet to tell us about those materials. In this particular case, well, I visit the British Museum several times, and until now that I have this love from mirrors, I haven't noticed the amount of mirrors they have from different parts of the world. So we have mirrors from Rome, from Greece, from Turkey, from Africa, from different areas and times and periods, and of course they have uh, mirrors from Mesoamerica. That here we have a beautiful example from a obsidian mirror from post-classic, most likely Aztecs. You know? So Given this background, I start to soliciting, try to register, to see the mirror they have in their collections. So obviously, one of the most famous mirrors that they have in the British Museum is this obsidian mirrors from post-classic time. From the owner was John Dee, from who you don't know. John Dee was the major advisor from Queen Elizabeth I, and they claim that this was an advisor, but also a nigromante, a guy who liked to talk to angels and devils, according to the records. And he go and look into the mirrors and try to search for answer to give the best advice for the queen. So we see the use of mirrors not only in pre-Hispanic time but also more in more modern time, and how the mirrors were used not as aesthetic but also as a ceremonial and magical performance. So in this case, I went to the data collection to the British Museum, and I started typing the different keywords in order to see how many mirrors they have in the storage room. Because of course, they don't have all the mirrors in display, so they have a lot of it in storage. So we found, like here, we put mirror obsidian, and then some results start to show up. So also we go for pirate. We see here that some different examples, inlay, pirate inlay there. So we make a list of possible mirrors who object who fit the description. Unfortunately, at this point, some of these numbers, they don't have photographs like we see here. So they have a small description to match the possible mirror object, like thin, flat surface, reflected surface, etc. So at the end, we have 17 mirrors registered at the database of the British Museum. From that, we have 7 obsidian mirrors and 10 pirate inlay stone mirrors. We didn't have, or I didn't discover any mirrors from preclassic or the Olmec type like our colleagues Emiliano are showing us, from ilmenite and hematite mostly. So I request to see these 17 mirrors to the British Museum to analyze them and to register in my database. So when you make the request, most of the time, you are allowed to see the material that is on a storage room. It's possible to see the material that is on exhibit, but you have to have a more strong project and developed project in order to request why you need to see those particular pieces. But in this case, then they pull out all the materials that all the mirrors that I requested that they were not on exhibit. And they have, unfortunately, they don't tell, they show that they don't take you to the storage room and take it yourself. They take it for you, and they have a special rooms where they have the visit, they call it visit rooms. And they put it in a big table, and you have the materials all lined out, like we see here. And in conjunction with the, in this case, Danis Borover, who is one of the curators of the Mesoamerica region from the museum, we start analyzing, we start describing, we start talking about the material, the acquisition, where, how they made it to the British Museum. And then we start the process of the registration. So this is just a like normal procedure for all of us, like just going to the database and getting all the basic information, dimensions, material, color, description of the items, if it's a flat surface, is still well, it has chip on it, information about the tags, that we could give us more information about how they were collected, etc. Later, we proceed to photograph, to register photographically each of them in all the possible positions. I mean, back, forward, on the sides, a particular area, the holes that they have, etc. So we can have an idea later on to make more an description of the item. We need to like get all the information we could for going to the storage room and to have this splendid visit to the British Museum collections. For example, here we can see that particular obsidian mirror that you can see the beauty of the surface that is still shiny, that you can still see the reflections. And this is something that already mentioned before. Mesoamerican mirrors, they do not have these like very neat. I mean, these obsidians are very, very neat, but we saw in the pirate mirrors that you cannot see very well the image yourself. So we think that the pirates, well, the mirrors in Mesoamerica, they have more ceremonial, more theatrical, more magic use for them in the Mesoamerican real. So now we start describing the obsidian mirrors. Like I mentioned, we registered there were 7 obsidian mirrors from the British Museum. 2 of them are on display. One is the John D that is on display, and the other is the Aztec mirror in the Mesoamerica exhibit room. And they have a third one that is this one we see here. That is a big rim, obsidian rim mirror, most likely from Sierra de las Navajas in central Mexico, post-classic time. And you can see here that probably, I mean, this particular mirror was acquired by somebody who speaks Spanish, because, I mean, we see the tag here to say, aro con que hacían sus sacrificios los indios, es de obsidiana. Is ring, which what the Indians make their sacrifice. This is from obsidian. So most likely this was collected from somebody else and then acquired by British antiquarians or collectors, and then sell it to the British Museum. Another very interesting piece that they have is this rectangular obsidian mirror that we know they start doing it in the post-classic, but also after the conquest. They were very fashionable during the early colonial times, and people sent made to the local artisans circular and square mirrors in obsidian. This particular piece is also a black obsidian, where we see a very nice flat surface, and on the opposite side we see that they prepare the surface, like we see this kind of chipping in the cores of the core blades for making blades in Hispanic time, that they prepare the core and they chip the core in order to be not slippery. In this case, we have the same here in the back, and we see how they prepare it. And also, that was very interesting that suddenly other colleagues started to study why they used it during the colonial time. They were not for pre-Hispanic use or indigenous people. They were Spaniards who requested to send me this type of mirrors, but they were not for mirrors per se. They were using it, these particular ones, the square ones, they were used as altars. They did the flat surface, and they put the stuff on top of that. And also the round ones and these ones, they use it as a canvas. They were painting on them. Apparently the obsidian surface is a very nice to paint. And let me show you one example that I found in the Sumaya Museum here in Mexico City. That is a nice obsidian mirror, black obsidian mirror, that they paint on top of that a nice colonial paint. So then we go to the other obsidian mirrors that we discovered in the database, and we have this particular one that is very tiny. Is similar to the pre-classic type, that is a concave one. So we don't know if this could qualify as a mirror or something to be shiny or just like a personal mirror. So this is like a kind of in between that probably, not probably, obsidian mirror. The other 2 objects that were discarded, well, as soon as we saw it, we saw that they are abraders. These are obsidian abraders. And this is another example, no? That is obviously a tool, artifact, but it's not, when they have when they get to the museum and they start to make the description, it's not hard to believe that because they flip this artifact and they have this nice shiny surface, they could pass as a mirror, no? When the description. Today we know that these probably they were not used as mirror, but they were tools for work. So these are discarded as mirrors. Later, we go to the pirate in the stone mirrors, and we only, from the 10 that we found on the database, only one has the whole particularities of the pirate iron mirrors. We have the iron that they are already corroded, they still have nice shape, but they start losing the color. But they have the example. This is a good example of this type of iron pirate mosaic mirrors. The other we have registered not the mirrors, the complete mirror, but we have the base of the stone base where they put the inlay on top. And this hand, we have a slate mirror where we have the perforation in order to hang themselves, and it's a mirror with the nice dimensions. And we have another one, another slate mirror from the Maya area, from the East, but also I think we have the central holes, the type 2 for to hanging or to use as in the back of the body, like the Tezcatlipoca from the military realm. Unfortunately, I mean, one of the other stone mirrors back the stone base, when in the database was put as a mirror, but when they pulled it out, they saw there was not even circular, there was another type of items that was a miss register, so that particular mirror type was discarded from this registration. We have other four particular pirate mirrors, very interesting because they are not very common, but these are a single piece of pirate work for mirrors. And we have these ones, as you see in comparison with what Emiliano and colleagues present to us, they are a single piece of pirate, but they don't have the concave portion that the preclassic mirror they had. These are probably classic, end of the classic period, and this is just one single piece, nicely round, nicely polished on the surface. Another one is this type that looks like the preclassic mirrors. And now that hearing the talk from Emiliano, I haven't been registered pirate mirrors from preclassic. So I thought in the preclassic time, they only use hematite and ilmenite and that kind of stuff. And they didn't use the pirate. But this particular piece could easily join that preclassic mirrors type. Like we say, the only difference is that they don't have the concave part, and this is round, a nice dimension, and that we see in the previous talk, they are different shaped on the material that they work. Another piece was this one that is a nice, small, flat surface, very nice polish, but this have like a bottom. It's like a bottom that they have this perforation that they can be hung on. So this could be something for attire, for the costume to make something reflective, or use as a personal mirror to look, or to make signals or something like that. But it's a tiny one. The last one of these four mirrors is made of this particular pirate who is like this radial shape and is very fragile. I mean, this particular pirate corrupt very easily in humidity and start crumbling very easily. So we have this particular one that we see is round and they have a very nice polished surface. And we saw that they have a perforation through the whole mirror, so they can be hung also. Yeah, so this is very interesting. So the other two mirrors found on the database, they were not mirrors per se, but they were the pirate inlay used for the mirrors from this particular period. We don't have the backing, we don't have the stone base anymore, but they found or they collect the pirate inlays. So we have two particular entries in the database of the British Museum. Who is only the pirate inlay? They are very similar uh, between the two of them. So at the end, from the 7 obsidian mirrors that we registered from the database, only 4 were obsidian mirrors. The rest they were discarded as such. From the 10 pirate inline stone mirrors, after the description and after the registration, there were only 7 pirate inline stone mirrors on the database. At the end, from the 17 mirrors that we discovered or we found on the database of the British Museum collection, there were only 11 mirrors to register. So this is the beginning. I mean, this is just an analysis, a registration that I performed this summer, and the analysis is going. And what is next? The next step would pursue more like a detective search for the item and go to the old records from the British Museum and to see where the material is come from, how they were acquired, from which side, which region, which area, and how the material made it to the British Museum. So this is a very interesting part of archaeology. I mean, they allow us to play Sherlock Holmes at some point, but tell us all these materials tell us a very interesting histories and the way they use in their cultures made them to use. So with this, thanks a lot. Muchas gracias. Hope you like it.